Be kind to yourself, forgive yourself for everything. Forgive yourself, make amends for things that you need to think about, maybe that you've done in the past, but forgive yourself and don't live in a place where there are ghosts haunting you. Where the past is the past. You can rebuild and renew, and we have the ability to sort of reset our mindset and live a different lifestyle pattern. We can adjust. We are resilient humans. And what we've done in the past doesn't define us. What we're doing right now in the present is the most important thing.
Eric, thank you so much for taking the time. You are my older brother in everything I hold dear to me. I think you and I share so many interests, but mainly just the fact that, a great life and physical and mental health doesn't have to end as you get older. So I can't wait to learn from you and pick your brain and everything. But maybe we could start with maybe if you give a bit of background about who you are and what you're all about.
Well, I just turned 61 about a month ago. I've been a lifelong sort of athlete, competitor, raised in a family that kind of was a priority to stay healthy and to stay fit. So we were always kind of eating well and going out as a family. So to start off with, I think a good foundation of healthy habits. And as you get older, things go out. Some things go out the window. I had some wild years and I had some great years, but mostly what's always held me together is my sense of self-discipline and my ability to sort of conduct processes that help me get ahead in life. And sometimes when you have it helps a lot when you have a setback too, because then you have a solid foundation. So for me, it's been sort of an entrepreneurial journey as well. I started a longevity clinic here in DC in 2011. So we've had it for 14 years, and it's the first one in this area. And that's been sort of that's after I left my more corporate life and went into my own business. And I think what I am right now is the evolution. And I think of myself primarily as an entrepreneur. And I'm also, because I want to give more back, and I have so much I have so much I want to share with others, and I have so many ways of making our lives happier, finding more joy, finding more resilience, finding more purpose in our lives too. And I want to share with people. And we all have hard lives. We all have setbacks. We all have things that happen. But for me, it's about moving forward, maintaining a positive, healthy mindset, and with inner happiness too. I can be happy on my own without validation from others, it's nice to get validation from others, but I can be happy on my own because I have a stable foundation in my own mindset. So I'm an entrepreneur. In the last few years, I've sort of evolved into like I love my clinic so much. I love what we do. We do longevity medicine. It's awesome. But my real passion in life has been live TV. I've been on live TV quite a bit in the last year in the local area. And also I've traveled too. And that 5 minutes of the camera, 4.5 minutes of the camera saying, three, two, one, you're on. Sure. And having to speak about these things to an audience. And I'm usually working with really great anchors and working with people who everyone's enthusiastic. Everyone loves the happiness warrior. So it's kind of a personality. It's sort of it's an alter ego that's my true nature as well. So what I really am now is I'm really my business. Like I said, my business is very satisfying. I have a growth mindset, but my real growth mindset right now and my real passion in life is as the happiness warrior, and I'm doing that right now. So it's taking action. It's creating something bigger than myself.
So, Eric, I love that so much because so many people focus on, if you're a personal trainer or someone all about longevity and you're only focusing on the physicality. You get your blood work and I always change these levels and you forget about why we're doing everything. We're doing everything because it's going to make us happy. So that's why I love that moniker, the happiness warrior, because I believe that it's better, what does it say? It's better to be a warrior in peace than a gardener in wartime. If you're a warrior, it's good for any season. But I also want to be a happy warrior because I spent a lot of my youth trying to prove myself to myself, really. And I'm so glad I did it. It was great. But when I look at my life, I'm 46 now. I've found so much more happiness the last year or two than I did the rest of my life. Even though earlier, maybe on paper, I had more successes to brag about. I just think it's so, I feel like I'm so glad that I realized what I realized about every day being precious. And it's not, if I get this, I'll be happy. That focus on what you do have and be happy with that and still have your goals and strive for greatness. But just happiness is much more a state of mind, where so many people are in this trap where if I can just make this much more money or get this woman or get this next goal, then I'll be happy. And it's like, man, you can't wait.
It doesn't, and all those things which you're saying resonates with me because that's when I really started to really figure it all out. I put a lot of put a lot of pressure on myself growing up. I put a lot of I used to stutter when I was a kid. I was a little shy growing up, and I realized that as I grow older, I realized that my who I really was authentically was what was the most likable version of myself too. So the more that I became authentic, the more likable I became to myself and to others. And that creates a really positive mind. It creates a very positive atmosphere to kind of move through life in. When something happens, I always say something bad happens. I always say, well, this is happening right now. I will win. I will move forward. I won't live in fear. And, there's fear all around us all the time, too. We have to think about that, too. Taking care of our families, taking care, keeping a roof over our heads. And as far as for you and I, probably having a business, having employees, having people that we take care of as well.
Mm.
They're in our network of our life. And it's a big thing for me is having sort of like integrity with life, too. So,
I love that. The field of longevity, I think, is so interesting because I think about my adult life, and I've been pretty focused on living a healthy lifestyle. I was very career orientated in my 20s, but I always made it a point. So I barely drank alcohol. I always worked out. I pretty much worked out every day for the last 25, 30 years. But now suddenly it's becoming a much more, you start seeing these very successful CEOs who never cared about health. Suddenly they're talking about, things that you and I probably knew for many years. So it seems like it's in the zeitgeist that everyone wants to be more healthy now. And you have, people like Andrew Huberman's podcast is so, doing so well because people want to learn all these tips and tricks. What have you found in your own life? Because just by being a bit older, I'm sure, every decade I've noticed in myself, you have to kind of tweak and change things, right? Because you don't recover the same way, you don't have the same explosion. So what can you talk a little bit? Because a lot of people that will be listening to this will probably be around my age, somewhere in their 40s. A lot of them will be doing jujitsu. Jujitsu is wonderful, but it's in the older body.
beat you up.
Exactly. So we're all trying to think about I was chatting to a guy after jiu-jitsu yesterday, and I was saying, listen, the goal here, he's just turned 30. And I said, I want to be having the same conversation with you after we train in 10, 15 years. Not, that's my goal. I'm thinking very much long term. So in 15 years, I'm going to be 61, your age. So can you talk a little bit about how your own personal approach has changed as you got older? Because I know you're still in fantastic shape, but I'm sure you do things differently now.
Well, when I was your age, I sort of got into I really sort of I was a personal trainer earlier in my life too, and I kind of got into the idea that I was always going to be in shape. I was always going to be strong, and being strong now means a little different than it did back then. So maybe 15 years ago, that's a good reference point. It's also when I started to get interested in the aesthetics of bodybuilding too. And I went into men's physique competitions and I did a few around the country. And what I found was that I wasn't going to win. I wasn't the number one guy, but I really felt a good sense of camaraderie in that field as well. People were always helping each other. It's very positive. It's one place no one wants you to fail. The gym is another place where everyone wants you to be successful too. I would think that's my mindset anyway. That's how I like to see it.
Yeah.
So when you're starting off, 46, there's also a lot of people out there promising magic billets. Or if you do this for a while and do this for 12 weeks, or you take these pills, or you take these kind of dubious peptides that come off the internet somewhere, they're going to change our lives and make us happy and make us look really great. We're going to be the best looking and best fit. And a lot of that is take all that away and start with just daily consistent habits that build on each other's daily consistent positive habits. If you're someone who's never worked out I've always been I started working when I was 11. I've always been very career focused, very thinking about businesses and everything too. And I think in my early 40s, I put a lot of time in. I had a new business. I put a lot of time in the office and maybe a little less time with my family. And I don't regret that time. That was time when I sort of realized my power, my vision. I was able to realize that. And then I was able to take a break and say, my body's not training. My body now I had an injury. I had a really bad injury. I'd overtrained for years, I think. And I have a smaller frame than I was really built for. And I had a bike accident and sort of it helped us discover that my quads, I had to do a major surgery on both of my quads. So I didn't walk for 12 weeks when I was 53. So I had a whole big setback where my body was weak. My legs had atrophied after that time being in a cast for 12 weeks. And I had to rebuild myself. at 58. Okay, at 58, I think I was rebuilding my body. I already had, but and it was a daunting task. But I'd already told myself, I know how to train. I know how to heal. I know that it's a logical progression every day. That I'm going to have a victory every day. I'm going to be a little stronger every day. I'm going to learn to do something better each week as each week went by in my healing process. And when I realized I came out of it with a brand new body, I came out of it with sort of a stronger impulse to take care of myself even better and never to go backwards. That's another thing I say too, never go backwards in life, always move forward. I'm stronger now than I've been in many years. I feel like I've rebuilt myself. I feel like I have sort of the physical presence that is not intimidating, but it makes people feel good to be around someone that's healthy and takes care of himself.
I absolutely love that.
So my advice would be everything we do now matters 10, 15 years down the road. Okay. So how you treat your body in your 20s, if you're just trashing yourself, you can still stop and recover and come back and start over again, start new. So it's never too late, right?
Oh, exactly. But I guess so if you that's the physical training component. What about some things like just philosophy for life and outlooks and how you see things? If you were talking to yourself at my age, so your 46-year-old self, what are some of the things?
I would say,
Yeah, you wish you did.
I would say, first of all, be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself for everything. Forgive yourself. Make amends for things that you think about, maybe that you've done in the past. But forgive yourself, and don't live in a place where there are ghosts haunting you. With the past is the past. You can rebuild and renew, and we have the ability to sort of reset our mindset and live a different lifestyle pattern. We can adjust. We are resilient humans. And what we've done in the past doesn't define us. What we're doing right now in the present is the most important thing. Living in the present, I think, is the most important thing of all, and being happy in the present too, and knowing how to find happiness. So for me, it's a lot about a daily affirmation too. It's very important.
So, Eric, when you talk about living in the present, I feel like that is the only way to be happy, because otherwise we're always worrying about the future or lamenting on the past. But one thing I'm gonna it's kind of silly. It's definitely a first world problem. But I live in Chicago. I'm at the end of a long, we had a great summer, and I had this new thing that I've never done before, where I'd go to my friend's beach with my son after work or at the weekends, and he's just going to turn 5, so he's at that fun age where he'll just entertain himself. My friend has a paddleboard. I'll go out paddleboarding. I hang out with my son. I'll read a book in the sun. And it was just such a wonderful summer. I was like, I've never been this happy. I've had so many wonderful days. And now I feel like I'm a very positive person. I want to have a great winter. But it's so difficult when you're in Chicago, in the Midwest. The sun sets really early. I say work, it's already dark. It's cold. My son doesn't want his legs. It's miserable. So is there like that? I guess that's the difference between I want to be happy every day, regardless of my situation. But I guess it just feels so much easier in the summer with this new thing I've discovered than I've got going on in the winter. What do you do? Because you're on the East Coast, and you probably deal with the same things in the wintertime. Because seasonal depression is a real thing for a lot of people, isn't it?
It's a real thing. It's something that I even think about to myself. Will I be depressed this year? No, I won't, because I'm going to do a few things. First of all, I'm going to try to get natural light in the morning as soon as the sun starts to rise, if you're able to do that. Because it's going to get a little harder right now, because it's going to be darker until like 8 pretty soon. It's going to be darker until the kids go to school pretty soon too. But try to get that natural light to set your rhythm that day, okay? And the last thing I do also I think remaining active and eating food plays an important role too, because what we eat for the day, we just think of the day ahead and what we need to eat. So if I have a brain intense day, I need to eat more blueberries, walnuts, healthy fats, things like that. They're going to make my brain feel more sharp and focused. If I'm going to do a lot of cardio in the cold, I want to eat some really good carbs. And then I think about what my other goals for the day are. And then at the end of the day, this is where it gets tricky, because I've been in like at a conference in Vegas, and it's dark at 3:00 it's dark at 3:30 in December. There's a limited time, and I try to always get the last glimpse of the sun if possible, even if it's a cloudy day. Just that, and go to the horizon and just see if you can see just a little bit less of the light for the day. Know that it's going to come back. It sounds corny, but it really helps. And I know that we're lucky we don't live in the up and near the Arctic where it's dark all winter, it's dark all the time. But the seasonal, I think it creates a lot of anxiety with people too, and because I'm a summer person. I love the beach in the summer. I ride my bike. I ride my bike every day here in the city. I rarely drive, and so I'm an outdoors person anyway. I think that makes a big difference too. So, long story short, also, as I tell people all the time, if it's sunny at noon, go out at noon and get 10 minutes of real sunlight without sunglasses. Okay, that can help a lot too.
Oh, I love that.
So if your options are, not everyone has the same options in their life, and but to try to find some kind of time where you can actually just appreciate the day, I think is important.
No, I love that. There's one thing that I never heard this expression before. I heard someone talking about it. They said that this age that I'm at right now, they call it the big squeeze, because a lot of people, I became a parent a bit later. We're trying for a second kid right now. So I've got a young family, elderly parents that I want to try to maximize time with who live in Europe, which is another challenge. And then I'm at a stage where I'm still kind of hustling with my career too. So for me, every day there's too many things to do and not enough time to do them. You kind of touched on it. You said, when you had a young family, you were working a lot. But looking back with your wisdom and perspective, have you got anything to kind of talk about how to balance all of that? Because I think that's the biggest struggle that I know for people that are in my kind of stage of life, is you just have so many things going on right now. And then if I just play forward when the kids have left home and they're older, and hopefully money's not a problem, I'm not really working too much, and I'm like, man, I'm going to have too much time. It's a weird thing with life, isn't it? It's like everything comes at the same time. And then when you get older, like a lot of people are bored and they're complaining because their kids don't want to talk to them every day because they got nothing else to do except they want to call their kids, So
Right.
It's a weird time of life, and I'm very aware that I'm going to look back in 20 years, and I'm going to miss these days so much. So that gives me a new appreciation for really enjoying them so much. That's why I love being at the beach so much. I would think every day, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have such fun memories of this. I'm living in it right now. People talk about, oh, they were the great years. Like, I'm in the great years right now. And it just gave me so much appreciation for them. But I guess, just anything you can talk about how to juggle everything.
Well, you just answered your own question, and because what I was going to say is, I think about this. Life is short. Even lives of people. I think animals, people that we care about, could be shorter one day. We don't know what's going to happen in our own lives.
Yeah.
We never know. We shouldn't live in fear. But what we should do is, and I found this recently when one of my dogs just passed away. And I had a really important dog to me. Is my walking dog. We walked 10,000 miles together.
Wow.
And it was thinking about the time that we do spend together has to be committed. So the time that we're on a walk, I'm not on my phone. I'm with the dog. I'm paying attention to what the dog is doing on the street. They want to share their life with me. Same thing with kids. I remember the times that I spent with my father was also he was a hustler and work all the time he was always looking for fast money things too. So he wasn't always present, even when he was present in our lives. Even when he was there, he wasn't always present. And when he was there for me, it was wonderful. I loved being with my dad, but it was very rare. So I would think that your son and your future children will appreciate the times when you're more mindful when you're with them. And that way you can sort of maximize that time. We need to achieve things and grow. We need to also have our career. But really just being mindful and present while you're with your family is the most important thing. Or a friend too. You can lose friendships too without spending a little bit of time. So I like to go for a walk. It's always a good thing.
That is such great advice. And I always think about my dad. So my dad was a retired pilot. And when I think back to my youth, I was very close to my dad. I remember he'd go for 3, 4, 5, 6 days at a time. And I remember I was in bed. I'd lie in bed sometimes and I think, I've got 4 more sleeps till I see my dad again. But then when he came home, he would have, 5 days off, 6 days off. And he would literally have no work to do, no cell phones, no one's calling him. So he would make us breakfast, take us to school, pick us up from school, take us to activity. He was just relaxed, he was just chill, relaxed. And then I think about the challenge of people like me who work in real estate, and, I work 365 days a year. I have people covering me and I balance it all. That it's great because I can take time, like we're recording this in the early afternoon on a Tuesday. I can take time to do things like this. I was just at the park before this with my son. So I can I can have a flexible schedule, which is great. But the other side of that coin is I have to manage work every single day, all day. And it's a struggle that, I just look at how my dad's life was. It was so different. And so I couldn't agree more. I think that, and it's a simple thing to give people attention, but it's definitely a challenging thing because you can even be there giving them attention, no distractions, but your mind is thinking about the 20 things you have to do as soon as you get,
Right.
you know,
Well, you had a great role model in your father, and I was thinking, like, if we should, our job as leaders and as business as anything and anyone really, our job is to be a good role model for others. Our job is to set a good example, and by setting that example, that's showing love and commitment and responsibility and loyalty, all those things that you build in a relationship. So I think it's just a matter of always try to do your best. And if you can't do your best, then you're not really trying you're not really trying in life very hard. And everyone around you is going to know that too. So yeah, I'd rather be a winner and the way I think than someone who's just doing things halfway. So, and you sounds like you've got that right out. You've got that. Your mindset is already there. So
yeah.
you're raised that way.
It's so funny. As a lot of parents, I'm having all these flashbacks now where I remember when I was, I don't know if I was 5 or 6, earliest memories where my dad would say these little throwaway comments. And it must have been deep in the recess of my brain because I wouldn't even think that I would remember it, but I'll read a situation with my son where he's holding my hand and I'll say something and it'll trigger this memory. The mind is so fascinating. And it's so wonderful. Like I feel like I have a new appreciation for what a great dad my dad was, because he did exactly what you said. He was always so present. And well, we're kindred spirit the way, Eric. We both love. I had 2 dogs, but I had one that passed away, and he was 40, and he was German Shepherd, and he was the best dog ever.
One of my favorite. Yeah.
But I remember when he passed away. This will resonate with you. You mentioned about how he was your walking partner, your dog, and I had this thing where when I come home from work, he would always run and bring me a shoe. He'd grab a shoe in the mudroom and he'd bring me a shoe. And I just remember thinking, so I had this sadness that there was a few times where I remember I'd come home and I'd be on a difficult work call in the car, and I'd probably be on a headset or something. And I'd walk in, he'd run to me all excited, and I would almost dismiss him like, "Hey, buddy," and I would just because I'm like in the middle of this difficult thing, and so I was like, man, it was such a good regret because it made me think, okay, I'm gonna really try not to do this when I come home because my son now does that where he runs to me and he's so excited to see me. I don't care how annoying the call was that I just went on or whatever I'm dealing with. I've got to put that in a box and just really be present. So, I think one of the tragedies. I think dogs have enriched my life no end, but one of the tragedies is their life cycle is just so short.
Right.
Definitely does give you an appreciation for the fact that you see them aging so quickly and you realize that we're also aging because we're aging slower. Sometimes it's easy to forget, but it really does. I feel like the older I get, the more I appreciate that every day, tomorrow isn't promised and every day is special.
Every day is special. And like I say, I get up every morning. I wake up every morning and it's so corny. And because I try to help other people, others learn to do these things for themselves. And I really think it's important. Every day, it sounds very childish, but I'm in bed, a dog on top of me and another dog trying to get my attention. I'm waking up. And the first thing I say is, "Good morning, Eric. It's going to be a great day." And I say it like I love myself. I say it like I'm talking to a 5-year-old, like someone I care about. But I say that every single morning. I've done that for the last 10 years, perfectly almost. I've only missed maybe one day. And then one day I did, I was at the airport on an early flight. It was a horrible morning. Okay. And I remembered halfway through my journey in the airport back and forth to say that to myself. And then everything changed. Everything changed for the rest of the day. It was awesome. But I had to remember to tell myself it's going to be a great day. And I think I tend to have friends that have similar mindsets too. One of my friends said to me, I saw you say that on TV the other day, and I was watching it with my sister. He says, "You don't know this about me, but in my house, when I was growing up, when I was a young man, I had a sign in my foyer that said, 'Hey, it's going to be a great day.'" You know what I mean? And he was like, that's the way, and that's most of my friends. We get through things because we're practical, we're realistic, we're able to communicate with each other, and we're able to also just remember to lift each other up, which is also be around people that can lift you up too. Lift others, but also be around others that want to do that, that have this similar goals. So
Yeah, that's so interesting. There's all these studies about how women tend to do a much better job of maintaining relationships, but a lot of men, the friendships or the relationships are just kind of convenience. Maybe people you see at work or something like that. And then as they get old and they kind of retire from their careers, suddenly they found out that they haven't nurtured friendships of them. They don't really have any male friends. And I think, just speaking for myself, I was so lucky that if I look at my former careers, I was a pit trader in the Chicago Board of Trade. That was in 100 people in that pit, there was one female trader, the rest were all male. And it was a very, many people would say toxic male environment, but I loved it. It's like just being around real guys. And then I've been in combat sports for 3 decades and be around, manly alpha people all compete and see who's the most alpha. And I just think I'm so lucky to have been around those groups. And I was like, wife, I love my son, I love my work, but there's something about just being around with the guys for a few hours. It is so rejuvenating. So I'm so glad you did that.
A couple of years ago, I grew up right outside Washington, D.C., but I've lived here pretty much as an adult in the city. And as I was growing up, I had jobs as a bartender and things like that. I was young. And I have a group of friends, and we kind of just reconnected. On Sunday mornings, we meet at 8 a.m. We meet down in the middle of D.C., and I ride my bike down there, and it's like 4 or 5 of us. So we've known each other for almost 40 years. And, restaurateurs, rock star restaurant owners, all these people we're all like people that people know in DC anyway. And we get together and we're just like 4 or 5 like really good friends. We go 5 or 6, 7 mile walks and go have some coffee, and we all like their pastry in the middle of it all. But we're all like 50, late 50s to early 60s. And having that type of decades-long friendship I think is a remarkable thing. I think it's precious. I think it's something that is, I tend to look at people too, people who have long-term friendships, I tend to have more trust in too, because I think it's important to, like you said, a lot of people have these friendships. A lot of men have friendships that are, it's their wife's friends, it's their wife's husbands that they're friends with. And that's not really and I'd rather not have that social life myself. Okay. I'd rather do my own thing than do that. Okay. I'd rather have friends that are meaningful, that I know they have my back.
Yeah. No, I love that. And also think about what you're doing in that group. You're doing something healthy. You're going for a walk. Then you get social component, but you're also getting exercise. And I've noticed as I get really busy, Eric, it's harder and harder. There's never enough time in the day. And 2 of my really good friends, one of them I see, shout out to my buddy Louis, we go on runs together normally and then grab a bite after. And then shout out to my buddy Brad, one of my oldest friends. I really just see him a lot at jiu-jitsu because we live so far apart now. It's like we meet at the jiu-jitsu gym. We get, and it's only, after training, you shower, you're walking out. It's just 5-10 minutes of conversation. It's not much, but it just rejuvenates you, right? You work at it, nice conversation with somebody, some male energy, and then you go off on your day. And I've realized that.
I know there are people. I have to have that male energy in my life. And I get, if I have, say, a female friend or somebody that I know and she's dating someone really great, like a football player or something, of course I've got to go get a new friend. It's just part of makes me happy, So
Yes.
being with the guys is great. But then I have neighbors I've lived here for a long time down the street. We just get together, mutual support society. We're all enthusiastic about each other in our lives, and we laugh a lot. It's a lot of laugh. I start smiling and laughing before I even get to the corner when I see my friend. I'm already laughing because I know it's going to be funny. So it's important. Our social relationships are part of our resilience. They're they're a big part of our happiness. And I think I was reading about this. They have these dark rooms in somewhere where you can go check into some place for 2 weeks, and all the lights are off, and you get your food delivered through a hole in the wall, and there's no scent. It scares me to think about doing that, because you heard those things that they have. They're popular in Europe. No, you just have no contact with anything.
So what is the?
Yeah, it's sort of that's probably, I would probably die. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't make it 2 weeks. I don't think I would. It takes a certain amount of toughness.
That's why solitary confinement is just so dreaded in jail,
right?
Because it's just, we're not meant to be confined like
right.
And you hear those absolute horror stories about people that confine for just crazy amounts of time.
Right. Well, I had a client. I had someone I was working with who went through that recently. I don't know what he was in prison for, but something. And apparently, he didn't really, he was there for like 4 years, and apparently he didn't really like a lot of the rules that they were kind of hard on. They're really, it's not a nice environment. He spent a year of his time in solitary, which does a lot. When you get out, you're just like, and he got out and he was just like, I'm seeing the world. It looks like I'm a little kid. I don't know what to even think anymore. And I was like, well, you'll get through it. Just take some time, just process it. It's going to be like, it's the process of rehabilitation from that is difficult. So he also has a good attitude because he learned a lot about himself too. And that takes a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah, I guess you're going to have PTSD from something like that, but you're also, I guess, the benefit. You have to do so much just self-reflection, right? If you just by yourself or so.
Right there, the benefit in that is definitely the self-reflection is the benefit. I think is one of my core values. Is self-awareness is always on my mind. I always want to have, in anything I do, I want to be able to see myself with some clarity. I want to be able to, like, objectively. When I'm on TV, I look at myself and I watch myself back. But this is what I did. This is what I did wrong this time. I used my hands too much, or I did something. But I'm learning from that too. So
that's so interesting. It's so difficult as you get older, and you get a bit of a reputation, you get success, to do what you just said and look at yourself self-critically. Have you always been like that, where you're your own harshest critic, I guess you'd say?
And I don't like to use those words anymore. I used to say I'm my own worst enemy. I'm my own worst. I used to think it was more noble to beat myself up and to be hard on myself. And I realized it was exactly the opposite, is to be more forgiving and to kind of love myself and appreciate myself better. And that expands to other people too. That's why I want to create that kind of feeling with others that I meet too. Find the good in yourself, find the value, and use that value to achieve your goals, to create momentum.
So okay, so this is something I guess I've kind of been struggling with, Eric, is I feel like in order for me to be the most productive, I have to be ruthlessly chasing goals. And in order for me to be the most happy, I need to be just enjoying every day and looking back. Because a lot of successful people, they never look back at what they've accomplished, right? They're always looking forward. They're always
The next ring.
they're always unhappy because they want the next thing. Exactly. Like Elon Musk, one of the most successful person in history, he doesn't seem like a very happy guy because he's always dealing with 100 problems, looking to grow things, do new things. And, probably, some monk somewhere who's just so happy and peaceful, living in the middle of nowhere, you never know he exists, right? He doesn't have any public profile or anything. So I guess that's something, I guess I would love to kind of pick your brain and get some advice. Is
Okay.
I retired from the last time I competed was about a year ago in jiu-jitsu. So I went from amateur boxing to professional MMA to kind of semi-professional to traveling, competing. And so it was a big part of my identity for many years. And I always thought, because I had a career and a lot of friends and family, I always thought, oh, I'll never be those people when I retire, where I'm kind of a little sad about it. And I've noticed that I am a little sad about it. I'm so much happier because I'm not striving and chasing things in that world, I guess. But I'm definitely a lot less disciplined than I was. If I'm competing at a tournament, every meal is perfect. I don't miss any training session. Now, if I'm beat up and I'm just gonna, have a cheat meal and take my son to the park. I don't have that same. Oh, I'm also older too, so I guess I'm trying to balance those two things where I do still want to have goals and strive for things, but I also want to maximize happiness. And I feel like they do conflict a little bit.
They do conflict, but I try to think of this, thinking of life as a game. Okay, life is a game. Everything is a sport. I always use metaphors for sports a lot. Life is a game, and we're going to have challenges, but we're going to have things and to order to move forward, we're going to have to sometimes work a little harder or set something else aside, right?
Yes.
However, in the long run, we want to win, we want to be happy, we want to keep achieving things, but there's a way, and I think this is something that I've learned too. I've got to be able to take time and say no sometimes and be time for myself. And that's why, as someone who had a lot of goals and I was in real estate for 10 years here in DC, and I was a pretty active agent. And the thing is, my father, I was always kind of living in his. I became more successful, I think, than my father ever was. But I looked at him as my sort of like, he was always the one. Well, how many houses have you sold now? Rather than are you happy selling houses? Are you happy with your deals? What kind of people are you working with? Because I worked with a lot of really incredible people that believed in me. That I worked with a lot, and it would be his was always quantifying the numbers rather than quantifying my happiness or the value of what I was doing. And I realized that he was always searching. And even now, he's in a memory home. Even now, when he was going to the memory home, he was still scheming and thinking of things that he needed to do. And he was, I think that's where his brain was actually working at that point. He wasn't recognizing people, but he was still able to think of himself as a productive person going out to work and achieving his goals. And even though he was doing nothing, he was doing nothing, but he had this. I think I went through. I think we fathers and sons can do that a lot. They can sort of compete with each other, and that can be an unhealthy. It can be healthy too, because I wanted to show him that I'm capable and that he did something good, and also kind of brings you down too. It can make that whole rat race that you're talking about kind of more. It can be more of a drag on your life too. So able to separate the two. I think you're doing that. It sounds to me like you're separating it pretty well. I know in real estate, you're on 24 hours every day of the week. A deal could come in on a Sunday afternoon that's going to be it's going to be really important. It's a special thing just for you, right? So that's exciting, and those are always, and those are high energy times too, and that's the adrenaline thrill that we get too. That's that high, natural high. So for me, my natural high, I'm on TV tomorrow morning. I have a TV. I have a TV segment here locally in DC, and I know as soon as the camera starts, I'm going to feel so good. And then 5 minutes later, it's cut for a commercial. Goodbye, get out of here. And then I have to take that time. I have to say, when's my next TV show? I need this now. I need to be, so what I've learned is I've learned to be patient. I've learned that the universe usually delivers something when I most need it. When I'm thinking, what's next? If I'm patient, if I'm grateful, gratitude is a big part of my day, all day long, all the time. From the morning I wake up until the time I go to bed, I'm thinking about gratitude. And those things, I think that kind of mindset leads to the good things happening. So and these things that are happening where you're feeling like stressed and you're feeling like this is my identity, those are kind of erased when you can actually just stick, this is what I'm doing right now. I feel really good. And the next good thing is on the way. Next good thing is always coming. Next step is always in front of us. So
I love that. What do they say? It's impossible to be upset if you're also grateful. And it's true. It's like if you refocus on what people for, you can't, there's no more room for negative emotions. I love the fact you said you focus on that all day.
And negative emotions are all self-created, right? They're all self-created. Your jealousy, envy, anything where we're just anger. And what does anger accomplish? It can get me started. I can let myself be, I usually allow myself to be angry for about 1 minute. And then I say to myself, okay, you've had your moment now. Let's think about the solution. Let's make sure that I'm not approaching this in fear. I don't have a fearful mindset either. One of the things I say often before I go to bed is I say at night, I've said, I've done my best today. I promise I'll do better tomorrow. And I will not live in fear, because fear is something that's never going to happen if we think it's going to happen. So, there's just little things. It's protective. I think about being a happiness warrior. I'm ready for anything. I want to be ready for anything in life. That's one of my core values. So we're ready for anything mindset. And that thing, when things happen, like when COVID happened, I was prepared for that. I was prepared for something big to happen. It was terrible, but I built myself in the last few years, coming up to COVID in my 50s, to having resilience, emotional resilience, being able to feel like any problem can be conquered if you set your mind to it. And I hate someone telling me I can't do something. So, and anything like that, we're going to find a way to move ahead and get past that. So,
I love it. There's a book, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Grit by Angela Duckworth. I think she's a professor at Washington colleges. And that's
what is that word?
Yeah, it's just like the whole theme of the book is if there's one underlying trait for success, it's grittiness. And that's what I'm trying to teach I'm trying to give Plan so much love, but also I want him to develop that grit. And tell you, Eric, you'll appreciate this.
Love will set your son up with self-confidence, which is all he needs. Right?
Yes, exactly. No, I had a real nice moment a couple of months ago in the summer. So I was at the beach with him. He's got his beach toys, and he puts them in this little $10 Target truck, which was the best investment I've ever made, because he plays there every day. And he put all these rocks in there, and it's real heavy. He's pulling it on the beach. Then we're going back to the car, and he's pulling. He's like, "Daddy, it's really heavy. Can you help me?" And I was like, I was like, it's just a little bit further. You can do it. We're going to hand going back and forth. He's like, okay, Dad, I'm going to do it. And he's pulling it. This older guy walks past me. He's like, I heard that conversation. You're doing a really good job with your son. It made me really proud. I'm like, oh, it's nice to be appreciated. But I'm trying to like,
That's the moment, though. That's a really brilliant. It's a brilliant moment, though. You'll remember that, and you'll remember he might forget, but you're going to remember that, and then you're going to see that played out and how he reacts, how he engages his life as he gets older. No, you're proud of him.
I think that's what if I look at a lot of people that I admire, whether it's people I know or people that I don't know but I look up to, famous figures, it's a lot of them are great because they encountered. They had a real tough childhood. So I'm thinking, well, I want my son, hopefully my wife and I are going to have a lovely marriage and my son's going to have this lovely upbringing. So how do I give him the resilience in a safe space? And that's where it comes down to, I love the idea of it. He had his first jiu-jitsu class yesterday, and it's just like, so, it's like a safe space where he can face his demons. And, I remember when I started, even up to the end, you learn to recognize the body's, what some people might call fear and nerves is just the body getting prepared for a physical event. No different from you. When you've got a 5-minute segment, I'm sure you have that same adrenaline that it's going to be similar to how if I was about to do a jiu-jitsu match, because you've got one shot and you're on live TV. It's got to be that same rush.
Right. You have one chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Same thing with selling a property. You're only as good as, my dad used to say, you're only as good as your next sale. Because you sell a property, you did all that work and it's done now. You got to move on to the next thing. And it's like, he's a lot of the analogies of real estate. And when I can see that is, I learned a lot. I learned a lot in my life from being a real estate agent. I was pretty good at it. And I was known for being known for having integrity and getting the job done. You can compete with other agents if you're a better agent.
Yes.
You could have the same price for an offer. But if you're the agent that they think is going to get it done, they're going to pick you over 10 other people, which could happen quite a bit. They want someone who's effective, who has integrity, who's going to stand by their word.
So I'm so glad
it's not easy in this world.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because so many times people in business forget about the human element. And what you just said, I've had that same conversation with so many people where everyone wants a win-win, smooth transaction with professionals. And so if you can be nice and communicative and polite and easy to work with, you're going to get the deals versus people that the numbers might be there, but they don't have these other things. And it seems like such a smooth thing, but I think they should teach. I have an MBA, and I think almost everything I learned was useless in the real world. I think they should have a class or literally just how to be communicative and polite and professional and Daniel Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people, be likable. I think that's
simple stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Provide value that others can't provide themselves. Provide value. Do something, and you're when you're always on that kind of working hustle, you're thinking about how I can be my best, how I can set myself apart from the competition, how I can be a good example. Like I said, go back to being a good example too, and being a leader. And being a leader is another whole responsibility too. I think it's an enriching responsibility, but I think I always say someone has to do it. So someone has to do this. So I'm happy to take responsibility for my actions too. Always. So
I love that, Eric.
It's always good to be humble.
Oh, humble, yes. Exactly. Eric, I have to ask you because it's kind of been on my mind recently. So I gave you a bit of backstory with my dad. Like looking back, I always knew he was a great dad, but I have even more appreciation now I'm a dad about just what a wonderful parent he was. And he gave you so many great lessons. And it was really not, it's always what they say is it's not what you tell your kids, it's what they see you doing. That's how they learn.
Right.
So he was a great example. And I've noticed, just talking about aging as well. So he's 30 years older than me. So I'm 46, he's 76. And I've noticed the last couple of years, he's definitely, I think it's because he's dealing with some health issues, and he's incredibly active. And every summer he hikes across the Alps or the Pyrenees Mountains. Because my mum's originally from the south of France. They have a condo down there. He's retired, so they'll go down. Right. She'll just hang out with her local friends, and he'll go off for 2-3 months. In the winter, he does ice climbing normally in Scotland. And then when he retired from his career, he spent 2 years, he cycled around the world, just crazy story through Afghanistan, Iraq.
Sure.
Crazy story. So he's been this wonderful role model for me, and but it's been so sad just seeing there's something that's really changed in him, where I've noticed that he said things like, I would think because he was such a great father that he'd be such a great grandfather, right? He'd be so excited. He's got my son, and my brother has a 7-year-old, that he'd want to be involved in their life, and he's got this mentality where I think he realizes that he doesn't have too many years of being able to do the things he likes to do, like, a 3-month hike across the mountains.
Yeah.
So he's so focused on that. He's basically said to me, like, my job is done. I trust that you're going to be a good dad because I raised you well, and you're going to be good with your career because you know what's going on. I don't have to think about you, worry about you. And so if I don't call him, I bet he wouldn't call me for 6 months. Like, he's just focused on him. And there's something, I guess there was a bit of resentment there, or sadness, or I don't even know what there's a few emotions, I'm sure. But I was a bit disappointed in him because I'm like, man, like, I just think about my son having kids and like, I can't wait to be a granddad, I think it'll be so fun. It's just so weird to me seeing him change. And I guess, but then the other part of me is like, honestly, Eric, I'm really glad that he's doing that because he's done, my mom, I love my mom to death, but she was definitely a bit difficult. So he did everything to make her happy. He was a great father to my brother and I. He's kind of done his chores, I guess, the things that he, his obligations, duties as a father at heart. And now he's like, listen, I just want to do me. So part of me does like the fact he's doing that, but there's definitely a part of it that's a bit sad. And then the whole, father-son dynamics, you kind of touched on it. It's a very sensitive issue. So I guess I just wanted to pick your brains on that because I'm sure it sounds like you went through some things with your dad where his metrics were about your success as opposed to, how fulfilled you are, how happy you are.
Who I was.
Exactly. Yes. Your character.
I felt like I think it may be a generational thing too, but I think what your father's going through, it's hard for me to say, but it does sound like you have a handle on what he's thinking. What he might not even express that to you, but I think you have a handle on what his motivation might be. Yeah, it's to take these last few. I've taken care. That's what I say all the time. I've taken care of everyone all my life. I've taken care of everyone for years. I take care of. I have a business. I closed down last year. I had 50-something employees at one point. Wow. So I had so much responsibility. I had 2 businesses going on at once, and I had all this other stuff happening. And it gets to a point where I had to decide what was going to make me happy, and make sure that I'm 61. How many more good productive years do I have? I want to say 40, 40 more years, but 30 more good years is a good thing. And and he has to stay active. That's probably what. If you just lose, he's probably also afraid of losing his momentum. Mm-hmm. If he takes a year off and just decides to relax, he's not going to get back on the trail again, right? You might think that. That's how you think when you're someone who does that. So it's a habit of his too, to go hiking. And so it's something that he needs to do. So, I don't know your father, but I would say in some ways it's kind of exciting to think about his life too. I think it kind of makes me think, oh, that sounds exactly what I'd like to do when I'm 75. Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, this is episode 200 and something, I really want to do one with my dad where he talks about some of these stories. He's got so much wisdom, but he's also, he doesn't really seem like he wants to share it. He's very much like, I don't really care about other people. I just care about me. I think that's why he's happy as just, him on the trails. Because it's also, my parents are still together. They have an interesting marriage that they're cool with. My mom's cool with, like, he needs his time for a few months. He's away and I'll do my thing. So I think it's good they figured that out. But I can't imagine, I love breaks with the guys and things like that. But I can't imagine wanting to leave my wife for 2-3 months at a time, so you definitely got, that lone wolf aspect to his personality.
I love being home with my family. I love my traveling nowadays. I only like going a night or 2 away, like something like a TV show, a TV segment or something. And I also have, like, in the back of my head, I'm half Swedish and Scottish, almost 50-50. And I really want to spend time in Sweden, in the countryside where my ancestors are from. I want to go to Scotland. I don't want to do that with anyone else. I want to do it on my own. I want to hike on my own and go explore on my own. I don't want to be responsible for feeding someone else if they're hungry or they're tired or they're bored. And that's where I think to myself, that's a little bit of that's a freedom that I sort of dream about sometimes that I'm not sure if I really want, but is something that's in my fantasy life, is that I would have some time to go. I would love to go to a big bonfire and on like on June 21st in the country in Sweden somewhere, just someplace where there's people with my heritage, just like me, and I'm doing this on my own sort of like organic level without anyone else being involved. That would cause a big problem in my marriage right now if I did that. Okay, so I can't do it. It's just a fantasy. So, sound like your dad's living the dream. I think a lot of us want, and I'm not sure if I could handle that myself. I kind of need my family around and my sort of familiar pattern of my life too. So
It's so interesting though. You kind of mentioned that as a fantasy because, like you said, you're this leader. You've had so many responsibilities. You still do, and there's kind of that low level stress that's never ending if you're responsible for employees and family, things like that. And so it's kind of natural, isn't it, to crave the freedom that you'd get if it was just you in Sweden. That this is you just have to look after you.
yeah,
So I completely understand what you mean.
I would say you could probably drop me off somewhere with some cash and maybe a credit card anywhere in the world, almost, and I could probably survive, figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a fun challenge, right? But that's being very generalized, but still, I understand that sense of adventure. So, for me, it's a sense of adventure that's important. I think it's important to be a happy life, to have a sense of adventure in our daily lives too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, trying like the I want to live the opposite of a cubicle where I have to go 9 to 5 and I have that's soul sucking life. I want to live the opposite of that. So I bring as much adventure as I can into it.
Right, right. I'm ready. If you tell me there's an adventure coming, I'm ready. I'm like, let's go. So if I can do it. So yeah.
So Eric, can I ask you, so what with the longevity stuff? So in the competitive jujitsu at the higher levels, people in my age bracket they're taking all sorts of, HGH, DRT, they're just probably abusing everything. And I'm open to that stuff. I'm open to that stuff when I'm older, but right now we're still working on kids. I don't want to do anything to my system and my natural levels of everything. But can you talk a little bit about some of the things that the advice I really love as well that you prefaced before? You mentioned about all the important things from seeing the sun in the morning to sleeping properly to movement, exercise, friendship. Like I think they're the pillars of health and longevity. But what I have to ask, because it's in your field, what about all the exogenous stuff, the supplements, things like that? What are your thoughts on kind of those things?
Well, I think it's one of the largest markets in the country as far as making money is all the alternative health field too. It's really a lot of it. Most of it is sort of pseudoscience. A lot of it's kind of garbage. Some of it can be dangerous. Some of it can hurt your reproductive ability too. With me, it's about doing things the correct way. If you're thinking about we're making the mind-body connection, our bodies are constantly, our gut. I think my gut health is really important to me. My gut health is important for my mental health. So I'm always thinking about foods that I'm eating and how to I think pineapple every day is, I ran into I can't remember his name, ex-professional football player in a gym in Florida one time. And he was like in really good shape, older guy. And he said, I never had injuries because I had pineapple every day. So I was like, well, this guy must know what he's talking about. There's science behind that too. It helps you heal. It's good for your gut. It's a lot of good. It's a great carb with your trading too. It's a great fast carb. And I think about, okay, longevity to me is I have a clinic that does legally prescribed FDA certified peptides, which are not like the peptides that I call it a influencer starter pack of peptides. They're peptides that are not for human consumption, that are widely available on the internet and through kind of dubious clinics. Yes, you can set yourself off in the wrong way. But someone who's done a lot of physical work, jujitsu, someone like me who's done a lot of bodybuilding and a professional athlete. We have a lot of Navy SEALs at our clinic too. They're getting older and their bodies are sort of beat up. What we're doing is we're using the peptides and the TRT as recovery too. It's faster recovery. You're actually building stronger bones, building more muscle density. You're setting yourself up to be more protected as you get older and keep that strength. We don't want to lose our muscle. We don't want to have sarcopenia where our muscles are starting to fade away as we get older. So for someone who's used to living that type of lifestyle, I think they kind of, if someone who's done jujitsu or competitions for a long time, you beat yourself up. You've been beat up quite a bit too. You suffer bruises, you get hurt. So in that case, they're probably not doing any damage. I mean, and if you do good TRT, there's no reason to affect your reproductive abilities either, because you're having a balanced program. You're someone that's physician supervised. So the physician's not going to want you to lose anything. They're going to want you to gain and be able to and be healthier. So as far as I've been doing this, I've been in a clinic for 14 years. And those 14 years, I've aged a lot. Went from your age to this age. I would say it's probably kept me alive and a lot stronger than I would be. And I have to be a good example for the patients that come to my clinic too. So um, abuse of anything is going to always hurt you. Okay, anything that you do too little or you're cautious about and don't do the right amount or do too much, it's going to have imbalances. It's going to have negative feedback as well. So it's really important if you're going to do any of these things that you do it with a physician supervised, sort of high quality model to follow, so that you're not doing something that's coming from some back of a truck somewhere, or whatever. And I see that a lot. I get a lot of phone calls every day, and there's people. Oh, we have all these peptides you can keep in the office. You can keep bottles of them in the office. And I'm just like, but they don't have a prescription. Where were they made? I appreciate you trying to make me money, but it's not the way I want to make money. I think so. I know how to keep it I like having integrity. So, and that's integrity with people who do stuff like that. A lot of your friends that are doing that, ask them how they feel. Are they feeling better about themselves? Are they happier? Are they waking up in a better place every morning? That can make a big difference too. So it's a lot of things to keep your mind open to, because there's so many things that we can do with peptides that can help you heal instead of having surgery.
Yes.
Most surgeries don't really work. So
I have to say, I'm so excited about that, because I feel like I'm young enough where I'm going to have all the benefits. Like I got 2 years ago, I went to Colombia and I got some stem cells, and I would say mixed results. I don't want to.
yeah,
I definitely had some positive results, but you hear these incredible stories where people are new. I had this injury for 20 years that went away, and not quite that great for me, but definitely optimistic. But I love the fact that we're at the cutting edge of all this stuff, and I'm optimistic for the future.
Well, and you were talking about something that can have limited results too. That kind of stuff, that kind of therapy, there's no real guarantee to it. And when you're doing a peptide, just doing a tiny injection for 60 days or something like that is something that helps your body heal systemically, and it heals through the gut outwards. It can make a big difference in quality of life.
Yes.
And pain. I had a conference a couple of years ago. One of my buddies is a big health influencer, and I said, I'd like to have a pain-free body by the time I'm 60. And he's like, why don't you have that now? And I was like, well, I didn't think about that. And so I started really working on it really hard, and I'm really pretty much pain-free now. And I went through, like I said, I had some surgeries. I went through a kind of a big accident, and I feel like I'm pain-free. I feel like my gut is really clean and it feels good. And my brain is still able to absorb a lot of information too. I can make good decisions. And I think it comes down to that too. There's less brain fog and more. I'm connecting more.
Mm. Yeah. No, I mean, listen. One of the reasons I was so excited for this, and I'm so glad we connected, is because you're not just talking about integrity, but you're living it. And you're also, if you owned a clinic but you weren't in great shape, that would kind of be. I can sell that all of your life, all the different things in your life are in alignment. And I think I just love people like that. There's so many people on the internet that are pretending to be someone they're not. And then you meet someone like you who's so authentic, and you're actually living it, and you're walking the walk and not just talking the talk. So I think that's what really resonates for me. And that's really awesome.
Well, I didn't plan it. I don't think any of this I planned it. I allowed it to happen in my life. I allowed a path that I wanted to set forth on. And as I move along that path, things start to fall into place. Things start to come in alignment with my mindset and my thinking of where I want to be in my life, or who I want to be. Who I want to be is who I am right now. And when I'm on camera or anything like that, I'm always the same person. I'm never different. Yeah, I think that's important too. I'm very steady. When I'm riding my bike or I'm running or walking, I'm always at a very steady pace. I don't like to deviate from that. So it's how I live, and it's not perfect. There's a lot of headaches at times, but I'm always happy. I'm always in a pretty good mood too, for the most part. So
So, okay, so that's,
No matter what's going on around me in this world, I live in Washington, D.C. It's crazy sometimes, but I'm always happy. Nothing is as bad as we think it is. It's always going to be better than we think it is, too.
so would you say, like, say your 30-year-old self, were you naturally optimistic, or is it something you've had to consciously develop?
My 30-year-old self, I was still finding out who I was. I was dealing with a lot of inner conflict. And I tell you, I had a great corporate job. I was doing all the things I was supposed to do, and I wasn't really happy with that. And then I let it all kind of just crash for a while, and I became a personal trainer when I was in my late 30s. And it's not a very exciting job, I think, but I made it as exciting as I could. And I had a lot of personal clients that were outside of the gym, and it was a good time. But what I learned when I was a personal trainer is people wanted me to do more with my life. My clients would be like, I can see you doing this. I want you to do this. I want you to get into this. And I'd be like, okay, these people that are high profile people, they see the potential in me to go forward in my life. And that was kind of a permission for me too.
Yeah.
So it gave me permission to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I can imagine though, people that can afford and that prioritize having a trainer, they're going to be successful in life. So then they're giving you that positive feedback that, that they see so much more potential in you. That's really awesome.
Yeah. I appreciate that time period too. It was good. And being a personal trainer, when I started real estate, that was in my profile. So when people would pick an agent, they would often go, I want this guy. He has self-discipline. I work out too. I take care of myself. And then we get to meet each other. Hey, let's grab a cup of coffee and go look at places together. We're already in a good place where we can, and I think finding common ground with anyone is really important.
Yeah, I love that. I told my wife the other day, I said, all the people I work with, it's probably 85% of people I really like. Some of those we met through work, but I consider them friends now. And there's still 15 people that are 15%, a little challenging. I do it because it pays off. The profit,
Right.
profit is there, but I eventually want to get that 100% where I only work with people that I like, because life is too short.
But
oh, sorry.
those people teach us a lesson too. Okay, and they're always good to have a little bit of dysfunction. It helps us to clean it up too.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. That's never thought of.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's a really good point. Well, one thing, Eric, my wife's a therapist, and we had a really nice talk the other day, and I was just saying about how I was a pretty introverted, shy kid, and I went, I remember when I was learning how to be a trader, we have this mock trading sessions where all the trainees would go in the trading pit after the bell closed, and then the traders would pretend to be brokers screaming orders, and we'd do the math in our head and compete with each other. And I remember one of the guys is like, Lawrence, you got to come out of your shell more. You got to scream. You got to be aggressive. I found it so hard to do that. 10 years later, I won the Chicago Golden Gloves. I was a pretty good pit trader. I forced myself to come out of my shell, but I was naturally this introverted person. So I was talking to my wife. I said, if you had asked my 23-year-old self what his best hopes in life would be, I think I've exceeded them now, 2.5 decades later. I'm so thankful to the person I've become in many ways. And it was hard. It wasn't natural for me. A lot of time I love fighting because it was so hard for me. I was the last thing from a natural fighter, but I forced myself to do it with discipline. But we were talking, and I said, there's something still, even though my life has turned out better than I could have hoped for, there's something a little bit sad about when you're in your early 20s, your life can go in an almost infinite path and direction. Now I've got a house in the Midwest. I'm pretty settled. I've got my friends here that I'm reluctant to leave. So even though life is better than I could have dreamed, there's something a little bit sad about when you look back at the potential you have in your youth. And so I guess I'd love to ask you, like, every day we get older, even with great health, we have less time available to us. And so I feel like a lot of people, I don't know if that's the reason, but a lot of people, as they get older, they kind of become a bit of that stereotypical, kind of grumpy, curmudgeon old man. How do you, knowing that every year is going to be, we're going to have more health challenges, we're not going to have the energy we used to have, how do you stay so positive, I guess? Because that's something I think I'm working on it too. But, you're my older brother, you're a little bit further down the road, these things. And it's amazing, number one, how many people that are at 61 are pain free. I would say you're in the top 0.001% maybe. So that's amazing. But how do you stay so optimistic, I guess? because that's something that I want to keep that same optimism. But I just know there's this natural sadness that you just have less time to do things.
I think it's my purpose in life. I think it's how I created my purpose, was to not be sad and to actually start spreading happiness and start spreading the idea that we're allowed to be happy. And that's kind of, and I think I have an aunt that was really influential in my life, and I still talk to her as often as I can. And she's an artist, and she's 81 now. And I saw her recently for lunch, and she said, "I still have 20 great productive years ahead of me." And she was also always a very happy person who didn't have very challenging life, but always found a way to express herself in art and through her words and through her actions. And it was someone who you would always look up to as being the person who makes everyone happy when they're around her. Person who's always considerate and happy and makes you feel good. You, some people leave an impact in your lives just by walking through the grocery store. You see them, and they're just awesome people. And that's sort of my role model. A lot of it is the role model I had from some of my older relatives. It's just happy people that are able to say, "Hey, it's a beautiful day. My grandfather said it's a waste of time not to be outside on a beautiful day." Okay, so, and things like that, just things that you learn, you pick up in life. Like you had the trader said to you, "Hey, you're too shy for this. Speak up and take some space up," right?
Yeah.
And once you learn to do that, and you have to be careful how much space you take up sometimes too, but you have to. And once we learn that, though, the things that people say to us that may not be in our lives anymore can matter more than something our father said to us or our parents said to us. So I had a gym teacher. I hated gymnastics. Wasn't physically strong when I was in 8th or 9th grade. We had a gymnastics course, and the gymnastics coach was really strong and good-looking guy. And I was just unprepared for my floor routine. And I said to him, "I'm going to be really bad at this," before I started. And he said, and I can't remember his name. He says, "That is never the way you want to start anything in your life. You never want to tell someone you're going to be bad at something before you get started." And that really hit me hard. That was like something that it would resonate in my brain for a long time. And I started taking that lesson. I took that lesson to heart. And I said, "Well, I'm just going to do my best every time." And sometimes and then I started being the first person that they would call on. I was like, I want to get over with and just do my best. But that was like a great advice from this gym teacher. And so that stayed with me.
That idea of
It's hurtful too,
it's, but Eric, that idea of if we do our best, then we can really be happy. It just reminded me. So my first amateur boxing fight, I was 23 years old, and there was a girl I used to book at the New York office, and I was chatting to her a bit, and then she came into town, and it was the night before the boxing match, and we went out. We had a bit of a late night, and did what young people do. And then the next day, I didn't perform how I should have. I was a bit tired in the match, and it was her worst one. It was a crazy experience. It was in this gentleman's club, and they had like this strip show between the fights. And my coach is like, "What? Oh, yeah, like naked women in the ring." It was just a crazy experience. But anyway, I got done with that, and I remember I went home and I said, "I'm never going to do that again. I don't care, win or lose, but I'm always going to do my best to prepare, and I'm going to do my best in the event. And then the cards can fall where they're going to fall." And so I think I competed for 23 years, and I never once felt bad if I lost, because I knew I did my best and
Right.
humanly possible. I wasn't a machine, but I did my best. And I think that's such a great, it gives you so much peace to know that the result is the result. And the reason sports are exciting is because, you never know, sometimes the better person can lose. But I love that idea of like having that mindset of I'm going to do my best. And then you can take that from sport into your career, into your being the best husband, being the best father, I just think it gives you so much peace of mind.
It does. That's why I say it helps me sleep at night, because I have two things I do every day. I have my "Good morning, Eric. It's going to be a great day." That's all. This is how I start. But then before I sleep, before I go to bed, I do a little stretching, 'cause I think it really helps. I think it really helps to get more peaceful. Have a little shoulder stretch before you go to bed. It's good for the body. And then I say to myself, "Hey, I did my best today. I will do better tomorrow." And then I say, "Well, I'm very grateful for everything today." And I'll say, "Well, thank you, universe, whatever I'm doing." But in most, it's about, I did my best today. I'll do better tomorrow. I go to sleep so much easier that way, because I know that I've done everything I can, and that I can learn from that day. And the next day I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to learn some more. And every day I have business that it's a matter of keeping control of my life in a way that I don't have control over everything, but I have control over myself.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, that's all we can control. And with your dad, is your relationship good? Do you have some? Because I know it's always a very difficult thing.
It was very good up until he started having some memory problems, and and now he doesn't really know who I am anymore. So
Go.
I had kind of said my goodbye to him in a way. And I remember being out one day going for a walk, and I said, Dad, it's time for you to just. I thought to myself, I need to release I want my father to feel like he can go on to the next realm of life, whatever that's going to, whatever is. He's a dreamer, and I said, Dad, you had a beautiful dream all your life. It's time for you to continue dreaming in another place. It was just like put my peace with him. So I couldn't say anything to him. There was nothing to say to that. Human's still there. There's just a body there now. And it's not the same. Not the same. All the conflicting emotions we have with our father, he was not the same person any longer. And towards the end, but really towards the end, before he went into the memory home, I spent a lot. He needed help. He needed help, and he lived an hour and 15 minutes away. And I went out to him and I had my own business. I was able to do this. I was able to drive out to him every day, 2.5 hours of driving every day, almost for 4 or 5 days a week, and help him get his things together, help him get his life together, just to kind of be with him too, take him to the grocery store, spend time together. Yeah. Here are some of the stories that he never told me. That was the best part of it all, is him telling me, putting together the clues and the things that I've been thinking about all my life. And he put a lot of things together for me that I was able to get some finishing. I was able to finish off or let go. Mm. And also just the anger that we used to have. We used to be very, at times, adversarial, but more just kind of pushing each other.
Yes.
And I feel like those were not bad times, but those are times when I was like, he taught me to stand up for myself, too. Right. So, our relationship, I'd say, had some really healthy times. Okay, had some really healthy years, and some years when we were sort of ambivalent to each other too. So,
yeah, I really the relationship there was that spiritual leader Ramdas who wrote all these great.
Yes.
And he's had this wonderful saying. He said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family at Thanksgiving. And I just love that so much, because it doesn't, the work you do on yourself when you're with your family, all these old memories come up, and different, it does, like, definitely, yeah. So it's just, I think it's so great that you got that time, like you said, to really spend time with him at the end. And that's one thing I guess I don't want to say I'm struggling with it, because I'm definitely at peace with it, but I guess because my dad's kind of doing his own thing, I'm not, I'll call him occasionally, but I'm kind of letting him do his own thing. I just don't want to have regrets down the road, and say, I wish I had spent more of an effort when it doesn't seem like. So I guess that's one of the things I'm working on. That's why I wanted to ask you that question with your dad.
I think regret's another self-created emotion. It's a negative emotion that we create ourselves. And to be able to say, I've done my best, I don't have to have regrets. It sounds to me like you've done your best, and you've done the thing that he probably, like you said this already. He's seen how well you've done in your life. He's helped set you up for that kind of life that you have now, and that they say that's the parent's job. And if the parent leaves after you've started your whole life, that they've done their job. And I think that's the regret would be that I haven't told me. The only regret I would be is if I hadn't told my father how much I appreciate, his guidance and his parenting. And that would be something, like I would say now, I appreciate so much of what my father did and gave up in his life to give us a good life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And you just reminded me, the last time I got my blood work done, I was going through the results with my doctor, and he said, a lot of these, he's kind of talking about it, and then he just says this throwaway comment. And he said, honestly, the best thing is just have good parents and have good genes. It's going to solve so many health things. And you should really tell your parents thank you, because you've got some really good genes for health and longevity. And I've got to call them and tell them that. Thank my parents, because it's so easy to think about, like, oh, I wish they had done this, as parents. But the thing they gave us is life, and we're healthy and happy right now. So best gift our parents.
And I think to myself, my genetics from my parents were the happy, lucky circumstance that they came together.
Yes.
And, for some brains and some courage and things like that, those are genetic too. A lot of things are from our ancestors too. They come down the bloodline.
Yeah.
So
100%.
then kind of have it all set up. If you do that, you're going to be happier. So
Well,
regret is probably is a very bitter feeling. Doesn't feel good. It can really take us down. So if you think about trying to erase, try to get rid of that word in your head. That's what I always try to do. I always say certain words I won't say any longer. I won't say I should do something because should kind of implies that I'm going to fail at it. I say I will do this. I am doing this. I'm taking action. People have told me that many times. You are doing this. This is what you were doing. This is awesome. Okay, keep that mindset. Then you won't dip down into like the lower feelings that make us feel bad.
I love that. So you're such a positive person, Eric. What is something you're kind of fearful of the future? Do you have any fears? Like, some people are scared that AI is going to be the end of humanity. People are worried about escalating conflict in the Middle East, whatever it is. Do you have fears like that or not really? You don't give any thought to them because it's just going to be negative.
But the only thing I'm really concerned about is I'm an environmentalist at heart, and I have a lot of one of my uncles was a big environmentalist that could even consider radical in the 70s. Now he's mainstream, but back in the time I had a radical upbringing of environmental justice, environmentalism. And that's probably my biggest concern is making that connection with nature. And they say that our connection with nature is going down. It's very low right now as far as humankind.
Yes.
So our connection to nature used to be much higher. There's like 37% of people are connected with the outdoors and our planet. And that's a decline. And that's something that is my concern is how we can bring that awareness back to where we respect the earth, we take care of our environment. And I see so much trash on the streets and that kind of stuff, that gets me down. I live in a city that's just full of trash on the sidewalks. And I think that's a societal thing. It's also a lack of awareness of how incredibly beautiful this planet is.
I couldn't agree.
So many people will say we live in the best time ever to be humans. We live in a time where we can cure a lot of diseases. We can live a lot longer. We live a lot longer now than we did 50 years ago. So, and that's why I look at aging as I'm aware that I'm older. I'm aware that I'm grateful to get to this age. And I'm also aware that I need to continue doing what I'm doing now if I want to have a high quality of life going forward.
And you're living it.
I'm trying my best, okay? Always trying my best. So,
but it's all linked, like the healthy body, healthy mind, healthy mindset, healthy habits. It's all linked, and we covered it all. And you're doing everything. So this has been such a pleasure. I'll put a link to your website and your Instagram, but I'll give you the last word. But this has been such a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, I enjoyed myself. I was looking forward to meeting you all day, and this is a great conversation, and it's so easy to talk to you. It was so easy connecting with you too, because we have so much in common, and we have so much we can actually learn and expand from each other too. So I have a growth mindset always. So.
I love that. I'll bug you in a bit for part 2. Thank you so much for taking the time.